tell you that I'm the best person in this whole place to talk about Patricia Spillane. All right, the reason I say that in jest, of course, is that we went to the same grammar school, came from the Bronx, sometimes referred to as the Bronx, and we both attended Mother Cabrini High School. She's a week older than me, but a year ahead of me in school, for whatever that means. Patricia Spillane is obviously a native New Yorker. She was an only child. Her mother was Margaret and her father was Patrick, and I believe they both were from Ireland. Patricia, we can claim her as our own here at Cabrini College because this is where she got her bachelor's degree. From there, she went on to Iona in New York, where she received her master's. Then she went on to get a certificate in pastoral counseling at the Blanton Peel Institute in New York. She has a licentiate, in psychology from the Gregorian Institute in Rome. She taught in elementary schools in New York and in Pennsylvania. She also taught at Mother Cabrini High School. She was a science teacher there. From there, she went on to become Dean of Students at Cabrini College. And then her work took her to be a director of formation for our novices, our young sisters. And then she has worked in intercommunity formation when she was in Baguio City in the Philippines. Patricia represents a great deal of national and international experience in religious life. From 1990 to 2002, she was a member of our General Council based in Rome. In the year 2008, Patricia was elected to be the Superior General of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. And this is a 6-year term. I just thought perhaps I would kind of just give you an idea of the role of the Superior General. She is responsible for the faith formation of the sisters and for seeing that the Institute throughout the world is carrying on the work of God, that God's work will be done. She's the one primarily responsible for that. Okay. Patricia is fluent in Italian. Because she lived in Italy, she speaks Italian fluently, and she has a working knowledge of Spanish and Portuguese. In the list of Superior Generals following Mother Cabrini, Patricia ranks, she's the 7th Superior General, Mother Cabrini being the 1st. She's a woman of deep faith, great energy, and she certainly has a love for the Cabrinian charism. Now, I just thought I might take a moment to say a few words about the word charism, because sometimes we can just assume people know what we're talking about, and that may not be the case. In general, a definition of charism, a charism is a special blessing in the church. Each religious community is a special blessing in our church with its particular mission, spirituality, and flavor. You know, no two families, none of your families are exactly alike, okay? Well, religious communities though we're alike in many ways, yet each one has its own special spirit or charism. All communities are called to manifest the gospel to our church and the world with the Holy Spirit who has led each one to grow in its unique way, reflecting Jesus' good news. The charism of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart is one that calls us to respond to others with compassion and to serve with excellence. And as I look around this room, some of you I know a little bit, some I know a little bit more, but I truly believe that you do this in your everyday lives. You work, your goal is to excel, to do everything that you possibly can to the best of your ability, and to do it with compassion. We seek to communicate God's personal love in ways that touch hearts. Okay, familiar to us, right? Education of the heart. We can never get away from that. Inspire deeper relationships with God and foster the authentic human and spiritual development of ourselves and others. Our mission is to bring God's love to the world. Okay? That's the definition of what a charism is, a particular spirit. that is given to a religious community. A word about a general chapter. A general chapter happens in our institute every 6 years. At that time, sisters will go to Rome, being that's kind of the mother house of the orders in Rome, for a general chapter, for a meeting. Some sisters go ex officio, and others go because they are elected. Some may go as auditors, and we also invite lay people to attend our general chapters. Wonderful meetings, and when those meetings are in session, a general chapter is the highest lawmaking or ruling group for the particular community. Sometimes I think, we throw these terms around and maybe people don't really know what that means. Okay, we are Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. We are divided into provinces, different areas of the world, and each province has its provincial superior and sisters who work on a provincial council. And right now, many of them are together in New York for a big meeting, an international meeting. At present, the Missionary Sisters are in 16 countries, and if you go through the atrium, flags are hanging there. And perhaps you know, but I don't think all the students really know, that those flags represent the countries that the Missionary Sisters are working in. I think our newest country is Mexico. I don't think there's a flag there for that yet. And I think we might have to take down the flag from France because I don't believe we are any longer there. But that's what they stand for. At this point, I'm going to ask Joan to pass out copies of our vision statement, the new missionary vision, and that is the document that we're basing all of the work that we are about on. And while the papers are being handed out, I would like to add a personal note. I really believe that there's nothing new under the sun, and that was a reading at today's Mass. Much of what we're being called to do, we are doing, you are doing. And for that, I want to say thank you. I think very much of this new missionary vision, it's happening. It's not really new, it's happening. But I think what we're being called on now to do is to put intentionality there so that we're aware of what we're doing. We're aware of the fact that we are carrying out the goals of this new missionary vision statement in our everyday lives, because we are. I have no doubt about that. But I don't think we always recognize the fact that what we are doing is fulfilling the mandate that's coming out of this vision statement. We'll just go through it. I'm not going to go into it at length because that's Patricia Spillane's job. I'm going to back that out and give that to her. But just to go over it together. Our Cabrini family today is challenged on many levels. The cry of the poor and the excluded. The suffering of children and elderly at risk. The disintegration of the family and the disorientation of youth. The tragedy of so many of our immigrant and refugee brothers and sisters. The exploitation of women and human trafficking. Today we are called, MSCs and laity together, to develop new and creative forms of charity that will respond, Mother Cabrini proposed, passionately and swiftly to these challenges. We are called to move into new spaces of missionary activity wherever life is most threatened. At the same time, we recognize the strength and support we have received from the hopes of the poor and the dreams of youth who struggle for their future. The Cabrini family, with the missionary daring and strength of the Cabrini Charism, accepts the challenge of multiculturalism inherent in communion and international sharing. We accept the challenge of witnessing to the love and compassion of the heart of Jesus. We commit ourselves to a strategic plan that will involve all the missions and apostolic institutions in concrete actions and constant discernment of our human and economic resources so that we may be a prophetic sign of hope for the reign of God in today's world. And if you look at the last sentence, this is what we are about, this is what all the planning and all the meeting is about, to fulfill this, to look at this and see how does the work being done here at Cabrini College fit into this plan. And it certainly does, and it has been. It's not new. It's been going on for probably since the college began. Only now we're trying to heighten our own awareness of it and to not only continue the missions we have, sometimes it becomes time to close a mission for whatever reason. I'll give an example, though, of how we have met the needs of the time. I'm going to go back, I'm going to ballpark and say maybe 20 years ago. We had been in Swaziland in Africa since the 1960s. There we had a nursery school and we had a clinic, and it was going along very well, and it kind of turned over to the people, the Swazi people, and the work continued. And we just didn't think that there was need for our presence there. And we were about to withdraw from Swaziland. And then you probably can guess what happened that prevented us. It was the AIDS epidemic. We became aware of the fact that AIDS was rampant. In fact, in Swaziland, the rate of people who have AIDS is the highest in all of Africa. All right? So the result being that there were many children who had lost their parents to this awful sickness. And the elderly people were trying to care for them, trying to raise them. Sometimes they had families, sometimes they didn't. So we said, we can't leave. And so what happened then was we set up a hostel, kind of like an orphanage, only they use the word hostel, where some of these children can live, can be educated, and still keep close ties with their families. And whatever families may remain that they have. So there was a need, there was a response. The most current, at least that I'm aware of, was near the border in Mexico. We have two sisters who have come, one from South America, one from Central America, to work in one of the border towns. It's called Altar. And regardless of what your position on illegal immigration is, we're not even going there, but the fact is that these are people who are in dire need of spiritual and physical and emotional support and help, and that's what the role of the sisters there is. That's a current need that we're trying to meet. Okay? I'm going to ask at this point that Joan pass out papers. There are two questions. Are they on the table?
They're on there.
They are. Oh, okay. These little lavender colored papers. There should be one on your table. And it has a question. And the question's been pulled out of this missionary vision statement. And we thought perhaps that at your table you could talk among yourselves about what you think might be some responses to the question that you have before you. If you would like to write anything down that you could hand on to us, to the committee, it might be helpful for your interpretations, your understanding, where you're at with that, what you think about it. And if time permits, and if anybody would like to, get up and speak to the whole group about what your table talked about or came up with. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to do that. Thank you.